its owners and/or associates.
Lisa and Robyn are two fun friends diving deep into conversations where nothing is taboo. They believe in eating dessert before dinner and wearing the bikini. They're allergic to labels, authority, and cheap shoes. Currently, they're launching themselves through life being the good time, bold enough to take risks and inquisitively asking, what's next? They hail from New Hampshire, but they could be anywhere dressed in cute clothes. If they had to share a tombstone, it would read, "Curiosity killed these cats." Your hosts, Lisa and Robyn on the mic.
Welcome to Lisa and Robyn on the mic. You are listening on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can watch, stream, and listen on WSMN.live, as well as Facebook, YouTube, and Spotify. We are in the studio. Good morning, Robyn.
Good morning. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. We have a very special guest today. I'm going to get my eyeballs on.
Whoop, whoop. This is sound effects. Probably the best you got.
We're not great at sound effects, but we do them anyways. So we want to welcome Rob Watts. He is a writer of suspenseful thrillers. His latest works include the novel The Crooked Roads Through Cedar Grove, Charms, a collection of short stories, and his newly released novella, Focus of Attention, now available in a signed hard copy edition through his website, Rob Watts Online, 2Ts1S.com. In addition to writing books, he dabbles in food brand development. He created a line of hot sauces called Watt Sauce back in 2015, and he'll soon be launching Roof Deck Coffee in early 2025, a small batch brand of Nicaragua coffee.
Sound like baklava.
Yeah, balaclava, Nicaragua.
Nicaragua.
I just want to say that, Nicaragua.
Did you booty?
It's fun to say. He lives in Boston. In his free time, he enjoys time with friends, traveling, reading, cooking, biking, being outdoors, trying new restaurants, and avoiding negative people. Welcome, Rob.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Great to be here.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for our book.
Boy, reading
You're
that
welcome.
bio, it's like some of you were just attracted to us. I was like, oh, we do that.
We do that.
We do that.
That's us. That's us. That
I
sounds
want to know
familiar.
about your travel.
Yes.
I want to know about your food.
I'm tailor-made for this interview today.
Yes,
Perfect.
I love it. I love it.
So I want to get into how long have you wanted to write a book?
So I actually started writing with the intention of putting out a book back in the mid-'90s, I'm going to say. When I was in college, took creative writing courses. Wasn't really thinking of pursuing it as a full-time thing, but I had some encouragement from a not my creative writing teacher, oddly enough, but a culinary arts teacher. That was what I was going to college for, actually.
Really?
Yes. And so with that, I kind of got the encouragement, you should kind of shop something around that you have or whatever. And so I did, and started by putting out a small collection of just small, writings that I had put together in college during that period. And 1996 it was my first book. It was literally like 100 copies were printed or whatever, but that was kind of my launching pad into doing this. And I kind of I just wasn't too serious about it during that period. It was just like I didn't even kind of understand the importance of actually having a book put out at that point. I just okay, that's something I did, and
Were you
gonna do something
still
else.
going to have a culinary degree?
Yes,
So you got a college degree in culinary arts?
I did. Yeah,
And did you work in restaurants?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I worked for about 12 years in the industry. Worked everywhere from like sports bars to hotels in downtown Boston, and worked in a prison actually for a while. Yeah, working.
Lots of stories come out of prisons, I bet.
Was there a lot of culinary arts in that?
Maybe a lot of arts, maybe not so much culinary, but it was interesting. It
Could
was
you create
eye-opening.
the menu?
No, it was.
I was just going to say,
I
think
was
it's
just going to
meatloaf.
say, like,
It was kind of one of those deals that you were employed to work in the food service department in the correctional facility, we'll call it. And my task was to work with the inmates and kind of oversee. They were able to work there on good behavior, so that was like their incentive to behave, and they could actually have a job working in the kitchen. And so I oversaw everything they did. It was more or less I was a mentor and a teacher for them, teaching. But
for a second, I'm like, are we giving them knives? Are we giving them a vegetable peeler? Were they violent criminals, or were
plastic knives?
I tried not to find out because I had to work with them every day. I really don't want to know what you did to be here.
See, I'm such a curious person. I'd be like, what's happening? What's going on? Tell me what happened.
Interestingly enough, no, we didn't have knives. So try
making food without knives.
Chopping vegetables with dough cutters and
knife.
Yeah, exactly. So
a spork.
A spork. Yeah, we had plenty of those. But it was about that time I kind of tapered out of the culinary business altogether and just took on a different field. And at that point, I did start picking up writing more like actual fiction, like crafting a story in my mind and kind of seeing it through all the way. And I'm such a slow writer too. That's another thing where like I'll come up with an idea and I could probably live with it for about a year in my head, trying to just craft it and put it all together until finally you're sitting down with it and like, drawing out these characters and scenarios and storylines and whatnot. And till finally you start seeing the sweet spot ahead of you. You're like, wow, this thing's actually going to come together.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's going to be something soon.
Yep.
And that's when the momentum really picks up and you just kind of, you run with it. At that point, nothing else matters. Like, you got to get this thing done. Family parties or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, I might have to skip that because I got to sit here and work on this. And
these people, I don't know what they're doing, but they're doing something.
Yeah.
I got to keep my eye on these guys.
They're having a little bit more fun than me, but I got to have this done. So, yeah.
So where do you get your inspiration for stories? Like for the focus of attention, where did you get the idea?
So the funny thing about that story is, so that I actually wrote that a number of years back. It was it originally was published by another publisher, and unfortunately, they closed up shop about a year into it being out, and then it just went away. So I got the rights back to it, and obviously I'm putting it out now. But at the time when I was writing that, I was the publisher also gave me free rein, said, just write what you want. You have, carte blanche, do what you want. And I was reading about this haunted road in New Jersey. Which was where that when it was originally published, that was where it was based, was in New Jersey. And there was this paranormal phenomenon out there called Clinton Road. It's like a 10-mile stretch of road that's supposed to be haunted and all this weird stuff. So that came on my radar, and then I just kind of ran with it. I didn't write anything specifically about the location of all that. I just kind of said, okay, let me imagine what kind of craziness could be happening, or like if somebody lived on that road, what would they have to endure, and what kind of people do they encounter, and situations and whatnot. So that is how that kind of happened. So fast forward to now, I'm currently in the middle of working on my next book, and like I said, I'm a slow writer. So I kind of wanted to put
aren't we
something
all
out.
slow writers?
Yeah,
I feel like I have a couple of books in me, but
I think I would say everyone has one book in them, because you have the story of your life and how you come to be, and we're always narrating in our heads. We're always telling ourselves a story.
I
like
think
we
so,
think in stories. At least my brain thinks in stories.
I think we do. Yeah, every day. I mean, everywhere you look, no matter what you're doing. I mean, you could be grocery shopping, or out in your backyard doing yard work or whatever, but something will happen that kind of
Yeah,
puts something in your mind.
I didn't realize that the narrator is the ego. Like I remembered reading The Tethered Soul, and I'm like, oh, so we all have that person who's outlining the day or outlining the story. And I that was the first time I had ever heard that as an idea. And then Carl Jung, and I mean, there's a bunch of different people who talk about it in that way. But so I think we all have a story in us. But the difference between having a story, putting it down on paper, crafting it so it's coherent to the other people who are going to pick it up, who aren't in our heads, you know, that's such a long and arduous task. So when you say it's slow, I'm a great editor. So part of my problem was when I write, I'm editing at the same exact time. So I'm strangling myself on the page because it's like, that's the wrong word. You know, this is the wrong tense. Where's your grammar? You know, it's like, can you shut up for 2 seconds in there? I've got the editor who's got her red pen, right? And she is ruthless.
You're competing with the artist.
And the artist is like, just let me tell my story.
Right.
Like, just let me, you're not like, if I could get it out, you would understand.
It's a battle of the
where's this going? You know, the other one is, is this interesting? Where's this going? Who's this? What's this? You know, so I have those two people living at the same time.
It's true. Yeah, it's a struggle. Like they always say, like, great art is never finished. It's just taken
abandoned.
away. Yeah, it's taken away from us at a certain point.
Yes.
And so...
I actually have that quote on one of my notebooks.
Oh, really?
Because it was my idea, because I have a million ideas. I'm ADHD, divergent brain, always coming up with great stories because I'm a people watcher. So I make up stories about people. That was one of my things I used to do with my mother. We'd sit around and we'd be like, look at these two.
I love doing that.
Yeah,
I love narrating like how I think their evening's gonna go.
And in a not creepy way, of course. You
No,
know,
kind of creepy.
Kinda
Sometimes
creepy,
it's creepy.
yeah.
Sometimes, sure. I don't
I
say
feel
we're
like
not.
a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, I give them a better outcome than I think reality would actually have. Like,
And then I was a property manager, so you're in people's lives, and you think to yourself, I'm just gathering material. I'm just gathering. This scenario is going to show up somewhere somewhat fictionalized in another thing, or this particular person is a character. Like I have to try to, you know, so you have I'm like almost like a stealer of little bits of people's lives. And so I put it down in a notebook, and on that notebook, the front of that notebook, it says, great art is never finished, only abandoned.
That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And as a property manager, I mean, you could, I can only imagine like what you would see day to day, or what you're hearing maybe that you're not supposed to hear or whatever. But
you're in people's lives.
You are.
In a very fundamental way.
Yeah. Whether they know it or not, you
Yes.
are.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in like going back to what we were talking about, you find inspiration everywhere. And I think the worst thing you can do is force yourself to try to write something. I really think it has to come to you. Like it has to find you. It has to.
Oh, so we're going to talk about the muses. You think the muses drop something a lot? How do you? What's your relationship with muses? Because you just said they come to you. That's inspiration. That's a muse, right?
It could be, yeah. Or
what do you
think? It could be a bad experience with muses. Who knows? but
well, some of them are mischievous little devils.
Yes.
I bet.
Yeah, you just never know.
Go over there and start with them. See what happens.
Right. Well, whatever form they come in, I'll welcome it. You know, as long as they're giving me something good. But I just, I think, like I said, the worst thing you could do is try to just make yourself like I have a lot of writer friends or whatever, and oftentimes I'll hear, or they're looking to submit something like a short story or something to an anthology or some kind of writing contest or whatever to get published or whatever. And it's like, oh, okay, I have to write 20,000 words or whatever, and I'm just going to sit down and write something. And
like it's a school paper.
Yeah, and I'm almost envious of that, though, that like you have the mindset to be able to do that and just put something together, where I'm completely opposite of that. It's just, I'll be at a stoplight driving somewhere, and that's when something will come to me or whatever, and it might not reach book form for another 3 years, but I can remember that moment.
So do you form everybody in your head? So Anne Patchett, who wrote Bel Canto, which was one of my mother's favorite books. It's an amazing book if you've never read Bel Canto. She says that she writes very quickly because she's thinking about it all of the time, and it's not until it comes together that she can then put it out on paper. And I have, Gillian Flynn, who wrote Gone Girl, she puts it on paper, writes what their background was, it never makes its way in, rewrites, gives up, says she's never going to finish it, and then rewrites it again. So it's interesting you have more of the Anne Patchett type of it's formed before it goes down.
I visualize the story in my mind for the long, so that's where most of the time goes, where it's just kind of sitting and not actually being worked out.
Yeah, it's like incubating.
And I picture it like a film almost, and the characters
do you read that way too? Do you read in film?
I do.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
She does too.
Yeah, for 2 reasons. I think it just, helps me move along a little bit quicker, and I absorb the story better when I can kind of attach a visual to it, or at least my own interpretation of the visual could be completely different from what the author was thinking. But the new book, Focus of Attention, I could picture every character that I wrote, every location, and just every situation that they're in. I can picture like the gravel on the driveway they're standing on, or what the road looks like, how the rain was falling or whatever. And I can actually put a face to the character in the book. And once I do that and I kind of formulate everything in my mind, and I'm actually ready to say, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to move from draft form to actually putting this into a manuscript, that's when I can really roll along, because I'm just kind of playing it like a theater.
It's almost like you're what are the transcribers in court, where it's happening and you're just transcribing it onto the page.
Almost, yeah. That's a good example. Yeah, and I wish I had their talent for typing. Believe me.
Oh yeah. Are you a hen and peck? Tick 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 tick. 2 fingers. Tick, tick, tick.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I used to be probably 80 to 90 words a minute.
And then I got nails. Like 500 words a minute.
With a typewriter. Remember
I say
the
they
typewriter?
Were correct, but
yeah, yeah, I'd have a few mistakes in there, but I'm a really good typer, or typist. But I find sometimes that I like handwriting out. I like handwriting out some stuff, and then I like to put it in. And now this newest thing I'm doing is, because I will get ideas in the car. I will get ideas walking, especially showering. There's something about that mind. You're doing something, but your mind is not really engaged because it's such a monotonous thing, that all of a sudden things come very fully formed visually. And now what I started doing was taking out my notes and talking into that. And I'm trying to write, I wrote a cookbook, which is a manual, which is completely different than writing a fiction book. But I thought my first book should be a cookbook, because food is my life, right? You went to culinary arts. I didn't go to culinary school, but after I didn't become an air traffic controller, I liked cooking enough that I was like, should I do this professionally? And then I thought, no, it'll ruin it. It'll ruin the joy. I could tell, because I don't like when people make demands of me. I like to cook what I want to cook and make love, make.
Yeah, I can.
In a lovingly way, make something for you. But if you're making demands, I no longer want to make you something.
I get it. See,
I can relate to that.
I didn't want to be I love kids, but I didn't want to be a teacher because I felt like it's going to ruin motherhood for me.
Yes.
I get that.
So there were certain things that have to remain an unpaid and unprofessional for you to maintain your joy in them. So I went the cookbook route first. Plus, cookbooks still every year have a growth in the publishing industry, because I started a publishing company. Did you start your own publishing company too?
I did, yes.
So I was like, as a business person, this makes sense to do the first one. And I have so much material, and I have so many recipes, and it's time to put them in a book anyways, because everyone always asks me, and I'm individually giving out recipes where it's like, all right, no, there needs to be a collection.
Right.
But now I'm going, because that'll be ready in February, and now I'm going into the fiction.
Oh, good.
And I'm trying to do it in scenes. So I'm just, instead of having the writing this whole story, I'm just writing a scene.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm thinking in terms of scenes like movies, I can get the whole scene out.
Yeah, that's, and again, that kind of helps you just synthesize from your mind what you're coming up with to paper, and it's easier to help you. Like you said, you're doing it in scenes. It's also kind of takes the pressure off you too. So it can be very intimidating when you're writing something and you're thinking of like the story as a 400-page book.
Mm-hmm.
And
with a start, a middle, and a finish.
Yes, and you can intimidate yourself pretty easily, or just lack the self-confidence after a while. You're like, oh, this
it's
isn't
a daunting
good.
task. The reason why I think 1% of people write books, and some of them are really prolific, like James Patterson. He now, I think it's Patterson.
Yeah, he partners with.
Yeah, he gives them an idea and goes around with this. Put my name on the front.
Harlan
Like that's how many
Coben.
idea.
He pops them out quick.
Stephen King.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Stephen King.
I mean, it's more. It's just an industry now of the brand name as opposed to the actual work.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure we all love Stephen King. I mean, we've all, enjoyed his books and the movie adaptations and whatnot, but I feel like Stephen King could publish a book of just 400 blank pages,
and we'd all buy
with
it.
Stephen King on the cover,
Right.
and it will sell million copies.
It's great
We'd be
marketing.
like, yeah. Well, did you see that? It's empty. I put my story in here.
Yeah,
He's a genius. He's a genius.
Yeah, you do the work this time. Yeah, you write it out.
You write it out. It's yours.
Well, so it sounds like both of you, it's allowing space. It's the unconscious brain that's building the story. And like I'm an unconscious, if I were going to be a writer, like I always think about, oh my God, that would be a great story. But then I can't get further than that when I actually put conscious thought to it. It was like, well, what's going to come next? Now it becomes where it was playful and creative. Now it's work. And now I have to sit down. And it sounds like you both are in that space, both building that space where I have to see the characters. That's like me. I'd have to see something. I have to picture it before I can move on.
It's really funny because when we talk about ideas, I feel like that's why I started that notebook, because I wanted to be a writer from a very small age. My cousin Jody and I we would hang out at her house, and I was telling him that, you know where South Boston is and Dorchester is, and you know where Somerville is.
Yes.
Right before you. My family would have to sleep over her house.
That's right. Yes. On the
Right. So when
20-minute train ride.
Right. So when
That 18-minute ride is just a
it's
killer.
just exhausting.
much.
I'm not going to do it again at night, in the same day. So we used to sit and write books because she was a voracious reader and I was a voracious reader. We're both only children. Both sets of our parents were readers. They valued that. So they were constantly reading, taking us to bookstores, talking about books. I remember New Year's Eve, them sitting at the table, either playing Trivial Pursuit or arguing about books or pulling out books and passing books off. That was my world. And so I thought, I'm going to contribute to this one day because I loved it so much. It affected me so much, these stories that I would read, that I thought I have to do it. But then in my 20s, I thought, who wants to hear from a 20-year-old? I need life experience. Well, now I'm 52. I got to get these out.
I got a lot in me.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about this a long time. These got to go.
Got to hit the ground. Let's go.
So when you say long time, do you mean like 30 years or do you mean like a year?
Exactly. Yeah. I think you've got it on me for taking your time writing.
Right,
but, yeah.
right. That's slow. You think you're slow, Rob. You've got nothing on slow. Now
Yeah,
you can
so
consider
That's
yourself
good.
medium.
Yeah.
I'm medium.
How long does it take on average for a book for you from idea to print?
Probably about 3 years average. And again, a lot of that time is more like thinking it out, drafting it, just, post-it notes with little ideas. Again, like driving or in the park or something, you get you get an idea.
Because I think solving problems, like your story has a narrative arc, action has to happen, something happens right? And sometimes it's the problem solving of how do I get them? I need them to be in a helicopter, or I need them to be. How do I get them there? What's a logical, plausible way for these two people to meet? Or I think there's so much of as a problem solving.
Well, so pretty much all of my stories have twist endings, which is what I just grew up loving that, love it in movies, books, whatever. So that was kind of always my goal. I want to write something that's like
that makes you go,
yes, exactly. Do that again. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, like twist, red herrings, all that. Like, oh my God, who did this, or can I trust that character, or whatever. I love playing with the reader's mind, and I feel that also is a way to keep the reader engaged too, because now you kind of having that extra level of thought into reading it, and like you're invested a little bit more, trying to find out, is this person really the killer, or can I trust this character, or I thought I really loved this character, but turns out, the biggest jerk in the world, or whatever. But with that in mind, I always write my ending first. I know what my ending is going to be, and that is when I know I can actually start going forth and writing it down, which is maybe 6 months out of that 2 to 3 years time is the actual writing and editing and all that. But that is also a way for me to just kind of drive my story forward. I know how it's going to end. I know who's responsible, who's the guilty party. And like what you were saying, Lisa, you kind of have to have your middle in, the why and the what and all that, kind of put it together. That kind of gives me the incentive to do that too. So in a sense, I guess I work backwards.
It kind of gives you the bones.
Yeah.
Gives you the structure. Like
almost like an outline.
And at that point, it's fun for me. Like it's not a job. It's more of a labor of love at this point. It's like, okay, now this is very goal driven. Like I know where my ending is. I have to drive it toward that point. And it's fun for me to try to break down now these characters in scenarios to see how it's going to get to that point.
They're like, what is this guy doing now?
Yeah.
So
what are these two up
do
to?
you know your plot twist ahead of time, or as you're writing this, you're like, you know what? I think this is like, I'm actually going to change this up a little bit, and I think she's going to be, she's going to be the murderer, or she's going to be, do you ever surprise yourself as it's unraveling and be like, yeah, I think I'm going to go this way?
Sometimes I've done that. No, usually I pretty much know, and I set it in stone.
Yeah. And
I don't really stray too far off of that, but there have been instances where, like Lisa, you have the crooked roads through Cedar Grove in front of you there. So that story has a lot more characters, and it's in. There you
Put
go.
it up to the camera.
Nice. And the stories are very intermingled, and there's a lot more characters. So with that particular book that I wrote, there was a lot of that, like, oh, I know where this character's going, or I know where the story's going, and then no, you know what? I kind of like this character too much to make them evil, like
a villain.
Right? And maybe I'll let the audience think that they're the antagonist for a little while, and then, oh no, we were wrong about them. That they're a good person, or they're not out to kill this person or whatnot. So that's pretty much how I write. I kind of stick to a formula, and I kind of go with it. And I'm a little stubborn in that way too. Where
you seem to have a supernatural. You are interested in the supernatural, and when I was like, all right, I'm going to buy this one because I couldn't find focus of attention when I was ordering it. And so I'm like, oh, it must not be released yet, so I'll get this one. I started thinking, how come we don't hear about the Bermuda Triangle anymore? It used to be planes were going down in it left and right. I was terrified. And now all of a sudden, like, all the mystery is gone from the Bermuda Triangle.
That's
it's
so
global
funny.
warming.
Yeah. Oh,
It went
there
to
you go.
global warming
It
and
disappeared.
aliens.
Global,
like, we just...
global warming
so
solved the Bermuda
It was
Triangle.
literally hundreds of years of, like, avoid this body of water. We don't know what happened to that plane. And now we just... Everything's fine?
It's Area 52.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's another good example.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I was at the Bermuda Triangle this summer. I took a Bermuda Triangle tour.
Oh.
I was down there, and it took you to the very tip over a sunken ship or whatever. And we got there and kind of, looked down. It was like a glass bottom boat. And it's like, oh, yeah, look at that. It's a sunken ship. Okay, let's get back to the island. And
Did anybody dive, or
it-
did they
no.
let you snorkel?
No,
or?
we just looked at it,
Oh.
and it's so I feel like the Bermuda Triangle story is just now the biggest tourist trap
Ah,
out
interesting.
there.
How do they know where the edges are? How do you know before
Because
you get sucked in?
There were so many mysterious things regarding
a magnetic field or something.
magnetic
under
field. So when boats would go through, they would hit something, and then their navigation system wouldn't work. Planes would all of a sudden, all of their gyroscopes would start bouncing,
Right.
and so that was the idea of why planes crashed, went missing. The missing thing, like, they should show up somewhere. I'm assuming they're in the ocean, somewhere. Get some ELT, transponder finders, and boats. So it was always like a navigation where the pilot of the vessel or the plane would get turned around and get...
So I'm just wondering, like, where did they set the bumpers?
There is a triangle.
a certain
latitude and longitude.
magnetic energy that
Yes.
they're like, okay, we can't go past this point.
And then, or when you go past there, something will happen.
See, I think it might be like Atlantis under the sea, something like that.
Yeah.
That's why I said Area 52.
Yeah.
It's like government of, instead of Area 51 on the land,
Yes,
Area
it's a
52
52.
is the sea.
Yes,
Yep.
and I wondered where all the
just renamed
mystery
the
went,
Bermuda
because I'm like,
Triangle.
and I was saying to my husband, did we solve something that I didn't hear about, or did we just take over the mystery with, like you say, climate change or
COVID.
aliens? COVID ruined it. COVID ruined the triangle.
COVID
Or
solved
the
it.
mystery. So we like magic and mystery,
Yes.
right? We don't want to know everything in a way. We like there to be some kind of magic or miracle that happens.
You don't want all the answers. 'cause
Yeah.
it
No.
just takes the
Curious.
takes the magic
Well,
out
and
of
so
it.
many times the answers are wrong. We were told don't eat fat in the 80s. How wrong were we? Where now they're like, oh, drink half and half
Right.
Yeah.
for brain health. You're like, what?
Eat more butter.
You no longer need 8 glasses of water, whatever they're throwing
Right.
at
Yeah,
you.
whatever you're
it's just-
throwing. Like,
Right.
so I feel like the science changes. Pluto's no longer a planet.
Or the food
Yeah, what's
tri-
up with that?
What
I
what
mean,
happened
that's-
with now? What
Well, the food pyramid, now you don't eat cereal.
right? You're supposed to have 12 servings of bread. Now we have
Right.
no bread. It's evil.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're always changing because they're learning. Really, the answer is they're learning.
We're always learning.
We're
Well,
always
I
learning.
think
So
the truth is nobody knows what they're doing or talking about, honestly. It's just throw it out there, and then you can just take it back a few years later. Oh,
It really is the most. It's really the person wins that says it with the most confidence.
I think so. And I'm going to say the
It's true.
Bermuda Triangle, you should be afraid.
Yes. Be very.
well, there you have it.
Very afraid.
So you said you like to travel. Where do you like to travel? Where have you been?
I had the opportunity to do a lot of traveling in the 2000s, 2010s, when I left the culinary industry and worked on my own. Kind of found myself with a lot more free time than I would have if I was working in restaurants and hotels. So Europe was fun. I was over in one of my favorite cities was Copenhagen in Denmark. A lot of fun over there.
Can you speak Dutch? Is it Dutch that's spoken there?
Yeah, and no, I can't.
Vluggen?
Yeah.
Vluggen? That's what I think it sounds like.
I rely on all these countries to speak English.
Yeah,
I'm just a bad American, but
Like I do when I go to Montreal.
Bad American.
Bonjour, hi.
when I go to Montreal, I really try to fit in. I do that. I'm like, bonjour, je suis, blah, blah, and all that, and then they'll look at me and they're like,
I'll speak
no.
English too.
Yeah, it's like we'll take it from here.
You poor thing. Good try.
Yeah.
Get out of the way.
So yeah, I over there
And what made you like that particular area so much? What was so intriguing?
The ease of getting around, number one, because again, you're just as Americans, I hate to throw that word xenophobic around or whatever. Like you're not, you're just not open to going to new places or working within the way
Where
their
is the
cities-
McDonald's?
Yes, exactly.
Where are we going to eat?
which-
There's no McDonald's.
Oddly enough, there was a lot of like McDonald's and
Really?
7-Elevens over in Europe.
And
Yeah,
7-Eleven
Franchise.
always surprised me, but yes, McDonald's is
7-Eleven
everywhere.
they love over there.
Really?
Yes, Stockholm, Sweden. There was one literally like across the street from one another on every block you were on. It was almost like a Starbucks, around
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
But Copenhagen was good because it was just a very easy city to navigate around. The airport was pretty much right there. It was just like a 2-stop train ride into the city proper in Copenhagen. And so there wasn't like a lot of that, an hour ride on a bus through some countryside or whatever till you get to where you're going. But they were all very nice there. It was just a beautiful, the architecture was nice. They were friendly. There was this
Food?
weird, the food was good, but very Americanized too. I mean,
Oh,
there was
interesting.
Hard Rock Cafe and there's,
Oh.
but there was a weird little town in the city center, which actually, it's oddly enough, I was inspired to maybe write something about this place at some point, but it's a little commune called Christiania, and it's in the center of the city of Copenhagen, and it was a former military base. And in the 70s, I think it was just kind of, they left, the military abandoned it, and a commune of hippies moved in and basically made their own town. They made their own houses.
Wow.
I think they even have their own currency
Really?
there. Yeah, and it's like a no camera zone. You can't go in there with video or
It's like Denmark's
cameras.
version of Indians. Like they have
Yes.
their own reserve and
Almost,
they have their,
yeah.
Yes.
their own law. Like
Yeah, yeah.
all
or,
that
or
stuff.
the Amish
Yeah.
in a
Yes,
sense.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just kind of this thing. Yeah, we're moving in and we're gonna live like this, and that's that. And so when you wander through there, it's it's not like a rundown area, but it's interesting looking the way they have everything built, like their form of architecture. It's like some of them have homemade houses and businesses and stuff that they just kind of slap together, and then they paint it with like urban art, and it's like, oh, this is like an urban art space here or whatever.
Yes.
And
Hippies have to do by building code.
Yeah. Well, they're
Yeah.
like, we're
Not
not doing
follow
building
code.
code. We're not doing
Can
that.
we start that? Can we do that?
Yeah.
Can we just start our own compound?
on your
Yeah.
on your property?
I
Yes.
got 6. It's a good start.
yeah, start
Just
there
add
and
some
work out.
yurts.
Buy out the
Yeah.
rest of the neighborhood.
Yurts. Start putting yurts up.
Yeah.
Have
Keep watching
people
my
growing
neighbors.
corn.
You gonna move?
Yeah, there you go.
Run them out of the neighborhood. Probably would if if
Yeah.
I could solve the problem. My neighbor has their street light right in my window, and it's right where we sit outside.
Oh.
So no matter where you go, it's blinding. And we did buy all these big arborvitaes. I think we bought them at 15 feet. Bought 10 of them, and 4 of them are alive. So I had to cut out the rest of them. Actually, that came up on my memories. I just was doing that last year, taking the chainsaw, and Chris is like, "What are you doing today?" Nothing.
Don't mind me.
He
Yeah.
doesn't want me to have the chainsaw, so I was like, "Nah,
No.
I'll show you when it's done."
Go to work. What time are you leaving?
Said the reel. So I sent him a reel, and he's like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, he doesn't like when I use the table saw either because we did construction projects together.
Yeah.
And he'd be
Okay.
like, why don't I cut that for you? And I'm like, no, you go do your job. I'm going to do my job. And then I would, start the table saw, and he would hear it, and he told me that he would go, "Our Father who art in heaven." Every time he started, he would just do a prayer. Please, God, let her keep her fingers.
Yeah.
He was so
Yes,
worried that whole
yes,
time
yes.
with
Yeah.
electric tools.
Well, I couldn't start the gas-powered chainsaw, and so one day I came home because my neighbor was walking, and I'd asked him to start it for me. So Chris is not very happy about that. So he ended up buying me a tiny chainsaw that's like battery operated.
Okay. Yep.
I think it's battery.
He's like, you can't cut through your leg with this battery operated one.
Yes, but then he would
No,
take
you
the
really
batteries.
have to try.
You
yeah.
really have to try.
He would take the batteries with him to work.
Oh,
It was like, where is that?
Where's that?
So when I go to the office, I'm going to get that DeWalt battery.
Stopping in. Hey, honey.
Hi.
I'm out.
Don't mind
That-
the bulge.
yeah. Now there's an image. A neighbor walking down the street. Hey, can you just start this chainsaw for me? Don't ask why.
Yeah.
Just,
What
you know,
are you
can
doing?
just do
Don't worry.
this? Yeah.
Don't worry.
My neighbors
Plausible
are used to that.
deniability. Plausible deniability.
Yes,
Don't worry about
yes.
that.
Yes. Starting our own compound. Okay, so where else have you traveled?
Excuse me. I've been over to Iceland a number of times, which was that's beautiful over there. I mean, they just if you've ever read, which we all have, you know, these fairy tale type of setting stories or whatever, Lord of the Rings, or you know, to name one of the big ones. When you're there, that's what you feel like you're in. You feel like you're in one
An
of these
epic
epic
story.
stories. Exactly.
Yeah,
Stole
yeah.
my word. And so yeah, I've been over there maybe about 6 times
Wow.
over
Wow.
the course of that time. Yeah, I haven't been there in quite a while. I'm dying to go back. But that again, like that's a beautiful city that it's just so easy to just fall into and just you fall in love with immediately. It's everybody's friendly there. The food scene is very eclectic.
What do they eat in Iceland? Like,
they,
what do they know
love
for
their
herring?
seafood. Herring,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
You can if you really have a craving for pickled herring at
That's your
breakfast
spot.
time, you're in luck. Yeah,
That's on every menu.
yeah.
Pickled herring.
Pickled herring.
Oh, first thing in the morning. With my
hot
coffee.
dogs. Yeah, hot dogs, hard-boiled eggs.
Really? Hot dogs?
They love hot dogs over there. I
Really?
don't.
That's
I don't
interesting.
understand. Yeah, but I think it's like their national cuisine over there is hot dog.
Wow.
Wow.
Hot dogs and ice cream.
Can you get them like everywhere? Like, can you get them every kind? Like, do you have like, you could do sauerkraut and
Well, I wonder if
marinara
they-
sauce?
Well, I
and
wonder if they
chili
felt
and
like, oh, you know, Germany has the
brats.
brats.
brats, yeah,
Polish
brats.
have kielbasa. Like everyone has some kind of sausage. We need something. Pick a hot dog.
Haggis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we
it's
have
kinda like
we have
a-
beans in Boston. I mean,
Yes.
I don't find that very exciting, but
No,
I'm
neither
not
do
a
I.
bean person. But
Yeah, I know.
I guess we own it though. So
And
we'll
clam
take it.
chowder. I feel like clam chowder. We sort of
Clam
New
chowder-
England clam chowder with no tomato.
See, I think
Right.
Boston should
Yeah.
be pushing tea instead of beans, but
Tea. Yeah,
you know,
we could do that.
from the tea
The
party.
tea party. Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's really funny because the you know, the British with their tea,
Yes.
but Americans are coffee. You don't when you
Yeah.
go into a restaurant. Very few restaurants know how to make tea.
No, it's a
Dunkin' Donuts-
Lipton, and that's it. Like hot water and yeah.
But
Yeah.
what they do is they put the milk in first and then add not quite boiling water, so you have this sludgy thing that's not tea
Yeah.
and it's not milk, and you cannot get you cannot get a hot tea at Dunk's. They put the milk in first, then they add somewhat because they've been sued for the temperature of their water, so they have some kind of lukewarm water that
Oh.
doesn't actually get the tea bag. You can let that sit for an hour and you will still not have tea.
Yeah.
As a tea drinker, because I
Right.
am primarily a tea drinker.
yeah, it's something, but this is not tea.
This is it.
You
So
can't-
I want to go to London. I want to go to England, and I want to have tea, high tea,
Yes.
with cucumber sandwiches.
With the queen.
by the
Ah,
by
with
the
queen.
well, with the queen's horse. I'll do the queen's horses. You know, I don't need the queen. She's dead, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Good. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to meet her. Too late.
Yeah, don't try to find her. Yeah, I haven't been to England yet. Oddly enough, yeah.
I'm an
Didn't-
Anglophile. I love their humor.
Okay, yeah. A lot of people do. They
Yeah.
you
I'm a
either-
Monty Python person.
See, you do
Love
or you
it?
don't, and
Or you
I'm
don't.
not. I don't understand the fascination with British humor. I mean, yeah. Some people have come along where you're like, oh, all right, that guy's funny, or you
Mhm.
know that. But people that watched, like what was it, Ab Fab back in the day? Yeah,
My favorite.
Yeah, maybe you could explain it to me
I don't
because
even
I
know
just
what
did
it is,
not
so
see
Yeah,
the
so
fascination.
Absolutely Fabulous is the brainchild of French and Saunders. It was an original. So these two women, before, I guess still we don't have a large majority of women comedians, but these two women used to make up skits. So they'd come on stage and be characters for like 3 minutes. And so they did the skit with a mother who was just like so annoying, and her daughter who was so straight edged, and she's this, hippie drug addict mother, and their like little fight, which was like, come down to the party, no one's seen you, and the daughter's like, no, I've got homework, I'm not coming down to the party. But it started as this 3-minute skit and then turned into a show which is primarily about women. So it's this woman and her best friend. They were hippies in the 60s. Then they turned into PR. They own PR companies, and they're constantly having celebrities on and pushing them, right? But sarcastically commenting about the lack of usefulness of the celebrities by being like, if she was talented, she wouldn't need a PR company, about her staff, right? And they were drug addicts and alcoholics, but fun and functioning. Not like real drug addicts and drunks.
Yeah, not like real life.
Not like real life at all. And then they would have the mother-daughter relationship that was tense because the daughter was straight-edged and had no boundary, had no real mother influence. And then the grandmother, so it was like the strict grandmother, the hippie kid, drug addict kid, and the straight-edged granddaughter. And it was just their relationship. And the main characters constantly married and married a gay guy, and she was like, why didn't it work out? And it's like, because he's gay, but we had such a great relationship, like she's always picking weird guys, and they're always still part of,
just got me,
and they're always still part of her life somehow. And she's like, can't I ever shed you? You're showing up now with your boyfriend, like she always, and she's just got these snide remarks. So I think Absolutely Fabulous, it's constant comment on culture.
Okay.
And relationship, especially the tough relationship between mothers and daughters. And that's not talked about often. Or back in the 90s, it wasn't.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, your 1.5-minute synopsis was far more interesting than the 2 episodes that I tried to get through. I mean, but I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I love British humor. So that's, to me, like one reason to go over there. I hope everyone's as funny as... I would want it to be entertained if I went there.
See, you'd be disappointed if you went over there and you're like, nobody's making me laugh over here. Like, why did I spend all this money and time?
And I do like their accents.
Yes, yeah. Well, I can see that.
But I do like, we both like languages, and I like German accents. I like Polish accents. I like Russian accents.
French.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like you were saying
Italian.
that anytime French people put English words in their mouth, you just think it's amazing.
Yes, it is. I know.
Are you a language person with all the traveling?
Do
you like hearing the different languages?
I love hearing it, yeah, and trying to decipher what's being said or whatever. But I've attempted to try to, like, I'll come home from a certain place and be like, oh, I want to dive into that language now, and buy the language course and all that. And 2 days into it, I'm like, all right, I think I'll just save this for retirement, as a hobby.
Yes.
Icelandic especially, that was it is the most difficult language to learn. You'll never speak it fluently unless you were actually born there.
Really?
Yeah, it's very, and that one I did try for a period to pick up because I had written a short story a number of years ago that was set in Iceland.
Mm-hmm.
So I took it upon myself to actually try to learn the language a little bit more and incorporate it somewhat into the story. And if you asked me right now to say anything, I'd sound like a rambling idiot now on air. So I won't do that. But it's an interesting language. It's very, not in a mean way. It's just, I think, to our ear in the West, it's very alien-like because it's very like...
I don't think I've heard it spoken. I wouldn't know Icelandic if I fell on it.
I don't either. I feel like Chinese is like that too.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's... Is that even a word? It sounds like there's just a rapid fire of sounds.
There was the Truly Tasteless joke book that there's it's not my joke. and it's from a time when you wanted to be offensive in your jokes.
Yes.
Yes. So
Okay.
disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
Do not be offended or
Don't
I
write
really-
hate mail on my thing, but they
Right.
said, how do Chinese people name their children? They drop knives and forks because of the sound. Like it sounds, right?
Yeah.
And so that was from my memory bank. Goodness gracious, I can't remember what I ate for lunch yesterday, but I can remember that joke. What's wrong with me? My
It was like back
menopausal
in the
brain.
day, like George Carlin, he's meant to be offensive.
Yes, yeah. It's you're supposed to laugh at yourself.
Yes.
And they made, I'm an Italian, and they made tons of Italian jokes. One of my favorite Italian jokes from there is, why do Italian men grow mustaches?
I don't know if I want to answer. I'm like,
So they look like their moms.
oh.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah, I wasn't gonna go there.
Yeah, so there you go.
So I'm glad I didn't.
That wasn't
answer.
what you were thinking either, was it? No.
There's me making fun of me in a truly tasteless.
Yes.
So those are some of the jokes.
You have to though. I mean,
Why is curly hair? I screwed up the joke already. Why is pubic hair curly?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh,
So
I
it
know
doesn't
this
poke
one.
your eye out. What's a blonde's mating call? I'm so drunk. I think we're going to go to the top of the hour in a minute or
Oh
two.
my
Should
God,
I
that's
just start
awesome.
reciting the... And the thing is, these were books I read when I was like 16.
Oh yeah, we read a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of trash
Oh, yeah.
novels at 16.
They'd sell them to you, no problem.
Yeah.
Now, I mean,
They
the
probably
store would
banned
get
them.
arrested if
Yeah.
they sold it to you. Yeah.
yeah.
Do they even make them anymore?
I don't know, but talking about them now, I'm gonna look and see if I
Yeah.
can dig up a couple on eBay.
Yeah,
'cause
there's-
I remember them. I had a couple of them. And
Yes.
Like you were saying, I mean, that was the time though that we
Yes.
grew up in.
And it
was just-
listed every nationality, every color of person. Like
Oh, yeah.
anything, blonde jokes had a section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I was
Everybody had their moment.
Everyone
yeah.
had their
Yeah.
insult in there.
I was
Take it.
actually literally listening to Joe Rogan and Jeff Dye on the way over here this morning, and that's exactly what they were talking about.
Oh.
Being offended, and if you call like Haitians, like just your large groups of people, there's such an offended, and he's like, but then they were, cracking on, white people, and he's like, dude, we make up the largest portion of the poor. He's like, have you ever been to Kentucky? And ever been to West Virginia? Like go to those mining towns, and like, yes.
There was a book called
You
All
have
Souls.
to laugh at yourself.
And we'll probably have to do it at the top of the hour, but it was about the poorest neighborhood in South Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And like a guy losing his brother to Whitey Bulger
Oh,
and all of that. So really, really interesting book. And they talk about putting bottles, half-drunk bottles of Coke and Sprite in the corners so the cockroaches would go to them and not crawl on them at night. That's how poor. So stay
Where
tuned.
is that,
You were
Roxbury?
listening South Boston. Stay tuned. You're listening to Lisa and Robyn on the mic on WSM. 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. We're going to go to the top of the hour, and we'll be back for hour 2 with Rob Watts.